The Chicago Mafia boss fired the only woman he trusted, and 4 hours later, he was begging her to answer the phone. Vincent Moretti believed betrayal always came with a warning, a nervous glance, a missing detail, a lie told too quickly. But when the evidence pointed to Claire Hayes, the woman who had protected his empire for 3 years, he chose a folder over her voice. Outside, rain covered downtown Chicago in silver. Claire walked away with one leather bag, a broken heart, and proof that someone inside Vincent's organization wanted him destroyed. Most people know the pain of being doubted by someone they would have risked everything for. This story reveals what happens when power mistakes fear for truth, and when love is forced to survive without trust. Watch to the end. Like the video and comment where you are watching from. 4 hours before Vincent Moretti began begging Claire Hayes to answer her phone, he stood alone above the Chicago River, watching dawn turn the black water into steel. The city had not fully awakened. A few headlights moved along Wacker Drive. Delivery trucks groaned through wet intersections. Steam rose between buildings and disappeared into a sky the color of old smoke. Vincent's office occupied the highest floor of Moretti Tower, a narrow room of glass dark wood and carefully controlled silence. From there, Chicago looked obedient. Claire knew better. Cities were never obedient. Neither were men. They only waited for the right pressure to expose what they wanted. She stepped from the private elevator at 6:50 in the morning with 2 cups of coffee balanced in one hand and a leather folder tucked beneath her arm. Vincent did not turn from the window. "You're early," he said. Claire placed his coffee on the edge of the desk. "You arrived before 6. That makes me late." He glanced at the cup. "Black coffee, 2 shots of espresso. No sugar. You added the second shot. You sent 6 emails between 2 and 4 this morning." He lifted the cup and studied her over the rim. "You monitor when I sleep now." Somebody should. A faint movement touched the corner of his mouth. It was not quite a smile, but Claire had worked for him long enough to recognize the difference between amusement and irritation. She crossed to her desk outside the glass wall and set down her own coffee. 1 cream, 1 sugar. The same order every morning for 3 years. The office around them was quiet, but never empty. 2 security men stood beyond the private elevator. Another watched the main corridor. Cameras followed every entrance, every stairwell, every shadow that lingered too long near the 46th floor. Vincent Moretti called the building his headquarters. The city called it something else. Some called it a financial empire, built on construction restaurants, private security, and shipping contracts. Others called it the clean face of a family that had controlled parts of Chicago for 3 generations. Claire did not use either description. To her, Moretti Tower was where people came when they wanted something from Vincent, and left knowing exactly how much it would cost. She opened his calendar on the tablet. "You have a meeting with the city contractor at 8:30. The union representative from Cicero moved his call to 10. Your attorney will be here at 11. The Milwaukee meeting is now Thursday." Vincent removed his suit jacket and placed it across the back of a chair. "I did not approve moving Milwaukee. You scheduled it during Sophia's birthday dinner. I remember my sister's birthday. You accepted a meeting 200 miles away during it. I would have returned in time. The meeting begins at 6. Dinner begins at 7. I own a plane. You also own a watch, but neither seems to help." This time the smile appeared. It was brief and unwilling, as though his face had made the decision without consulting him. Claire continued before he could object. "The meeting with Leo Farina is canceled." The smile vanished. "I did not cancel it." "No, I did." Vincent set down his coffee. "You do not give orders to my captains. I told him you would say no. And if I had said yes," Claire looked up from the tablet, "then I would have reminded you that starting a war before breakfast is terrible for digestion." For several seconds, neither of them moved. Most people lowered their eyes when Vincent became silent. Claire had learned that silence was often the only space in which he could be reasoned with. "What did Leo want?" he asked. "Permission to retaliate against a Calabrese crew near Cicero. For what one of their men damaged a truck belonging to a Moretti contractor. How badly, a broken windshield and 2 slashed tires." Vincent stared at her. He wanted permission to retaliate over tires. He said it was about respect. It is always about respect when men want permission to do something stupid. "That is why I canceled it." Vincent walked back to the window. He took another drink of coffee, then reached for his phone. "Tell Leo no." "I already did." His eyes moved toward her. Claire returned to the calendar. At 7:15, Sophia Moretti called for the first time. Vincent looked at the screen and let it ring. Claire said nothing. At 7:23, Sophia called again. Vincent declined the call. Claire picked up the phone from his desk and placed it directly in front of him. "You are becoming reckless," he said. "It is her birthday." "I know. She has called twice. I can count." "Then answer." Vincent leaned back in his chair. "You are very comfortable giving orders this morning. Your coffee is working." The phone rang for a third time. Vincent looked at Claire, then answered. "Sophia." His voice changed when he spoke to his sister. The cold edge remained, but something underneath it softened. Claire turned away and organized the contracts on her desk, giving him the privacy he would never request. "Yes, I will be there," he said. A pause. "No, Claire did not remind me." Claire pressed her lips together. Vincent looked through the glass wall at her. "She has more important things to do than manage my family." Sophia said something that made him close his eyes. "No," he replied. "You may not speak to her." Claire held out her hand. Vincent stared at it. She waited. He surrendered the phone. "Happy birthday," Claire said. Sophia's voice filled the receiver. "You moved Milwaukee, didn't you?" "Of course. I knew it. He claimed he remembered. He did remember. He remembered because you put a note inside his wallet." Claire glanced at Vincent. He was watching her. "That is an unproven accusation." Sophia laughed. "Come tonight. I need one normal person at the table." "I will try." "No. Say yes. Vincent says he will try when he means no." Claire looked at him again. He had turned toward the window, but she could see his reflection in the glass. "Yes," Claire said. "I will be there." When the call ended, she placed the phone on Vincent's desk. He did not pick it up. "What would I do without you?" he asked. The question was quiet. Too quiet. Claire looked down at the contract in her hands. "You would drink terrible coffee and accidentally start wars." Vincent's gaze remained on her for a moment longer than it should have. Then someone knocked on the outer door, and the moment closed. Grant Holloway entered carrying a silver laptop and a stack of reports. He was 43, with carefully cut brown hair and the polished manner of a man who had spent years making powerful people feel intelligent. His suits were always dark. His voice was always measured. He never rushed, never raised it, and never appeared surprised. Grant had advised Vincent for 8 years. He had known the Moretti family before Claire had ever entered the building. "Good morning," Grant said. Vincent returned to his desk. "What is good about it?" Grant placed the reports in front of him. "The shipping dispute has been settled. The contractor accepted our terms. He accepted because they were fair. He accepted because the alternative was expensive." Vincent opened the top report. Claire returned to her desk, but she could hear every word through the open glass door. Grant discussed construction contracts, city permits, and a warehouse near the Indiana border. On the surface, the conversation was ordinary. Nothing in Vincent's world was ever truly ordinary. A delayed permit could mean a politician wanted more money. A lost shipment could mean a rival family was testing a boundary. A contractor refusing terms could mean fear had shifted to the wrong side. Claire listened while reviewing overnight financial reports. Most of the figures were predictable. Payroll, insurance, building maintenance, legal retainers, consulting fees. Then one name appeared twice: Crescent Harbor Consulting. Claire frowned. The company had been retained 6 months earlier to review risk exposure for several Moretti properties. Its invoices were normally approved once a month. 2 payments had been processed within 48 hours. Both were for the exact same amount, $186,000. The first carried Vincent's standard authorization code. The second carried a different sequence. Claire enlarged the record. The payment had been approved at 11:47 on Thursday night. She remembered Thursday. Vincent had been returning from Detroit after a private meeting with a union representative. A storm over Lake Michigan had trapped the plane in violent turbulence for nearly an hour. Claire had sat across from him in the cabin. Both laptops had been shut down. Vincent had been holding a glass of bourbon he refused to admit was making him calmer. Claire had spilled coffee on his sleeve when the aircraft dropped without warning. He had not been in Moretti Tower. Neither had she. Claire opened the system access history. The approval had originated from Vincent's private office. She checked the building records. His keycard had not been used that night. Her own card had not been used either. Someone had entered through an administrative override. Claire copied the transaction number onto a yellow note. Across the room, Grant continued his report. "The Calabrese family has reduced activity near the South Warehouse," he said. Vincent looked up. "Reduced or hidden?" "Reduced." "You are certain?" Grant gave a small smile. "I would not bring you uncertainty." Claire looked toward him. Grant did not notice, or pretended not to. She returned to the financial system and searched Crescent Harbor. 9 payments appeared over 6 months. At first they looked routine. Similar amounts. Legitimate descriptions. Risk evaluation. Compliance review. Security consulting. Then Claire sorted them by date. Every suspicious transaction had been approved while Vincent was outside Illinois. Detroit, Las Vegas, New York, Washington, Milwaukee. One payment had been processed while he was at a funeral in Boston. Claire felt the first quiet movement of fear. She opened Vincent's private travel calendar and compared the dates. The first payment occurred the same night he met with a federal defense attorney in New York. The second followed a private dinner with a union leader. The third matched the relocation of a protected witness connected to one of Vincent's captains. The fourth corresponded with a route change for cash moving through a casino owned by a Moretti holding company. The most recent payment had been approved on the day Sophia visited a private medical clinic in Lake Forest. That appointment had been known to 4 people: Claire, Vincent, Grant, Jack Russo. The money was not the purpose. It was a signal. Someone inside the organization was selling information, then using Crescent Harbor payments to confirm that the information had been delivered. Claire's fingers became still over the keyboard. She looked through the glass wall. Vincent was reading a report while Grant spoke beside him. From a distance, they looked like what they had always claimed to be: a powerful man and the advisor who had helped protect his empire for nearly a decade. Claire opened the access records connected to each payment. 3 names appeared repeatedly: Claire Hayes, Grant Holloway, Leo Farina. Her own credentials had been used twice. She knew she had never authorized either transaction. Leo's access appeared on 3 nights when he had been outside the city. Grant's name appeared only as a secondary reviewer. Too clean. Claire saved the report to a private folder. A shadow fell across her desk. She looked up. Grant stood on the other side of it. She had not heard him leave Vincent's office. "You look like you have not slept," he said. Claire minimized the window. "I work for Vincent Moretti." Sleep was not included in the contract. Grant smiled. His eyes moved toward her monitor. You have always worked too hard for him. Is that concern professional curiosity? Claire rested one hand over the yellow note beside her keyboard. Grant's gaze lowered. The words Crescent Harbor were still visible beneath her fingers. He looked back at her face. Vincent has another meeting in 10 minutes. I know. Of course you do. His smile remained, but the warmth behind it had disappeared. Claire noticed a thin scratch across the back of his right hand, fresh enough to remain red. It ran from his knuckle toward his wrist. The restricted archive on the 44th floor had a damaged latch. Claire had cut her own hand on it 2 weeks earlier. Grant adjusted his cuff covering the scratch. Then he walked toward the private elevator. The doors closed behind him. Claire did not move until the floor indicator began descending. She reopened the Crescent Harbor records. Her first instinct was to go directly to Vincent. Her second was stronger. If Grant was involved, he had access to Vincent's internal communications. He reviewed legal reports, financial documents, and security summaries. He had enough authority to erase records before anyone could stop him. If Leo was involved, armed crews across the city could already be compromised. If neither man was responsible, someone had learned how to use their credentials. Claire needed proof that could survive outside the Moretti system. She checked Vincent's schedule. The city contractor would arrive in 7 minutes. Grant would return before 10. Claire had less than an hour before someone noticed she was searching protected records. She printed the payment history. The printer beside her desk remained silent. No pages appeared. A notification flashed on the screen. Printing restricted. Claire tried again using an administrative code. Access denied. She looked toward Vincent's office. He was on the phone, standing with his back to her. Claire copied the files onto an encrypted drive kept in the bottom drawer of her desk. It was a device Jack had given her after a security breach the year before. The drive could be opened only with a physical key and a 12-digit code. The download stopped at 60%. A second notification appeared. Session monitored. Claire disconnected the drive. Someone had seen her. She closed the financial system and opened Vincent's calendar, filling the screen with ordinary appointments. The city contractor arrived. Vincent called Claire into the office. For the next 20 minutes, she sat beside him while 2 men discussed permits, labor costs, and inspection delays. Claire took notes. She asked questions. She corrected a date when the contractor lied about submitting an application. Her voice remained steady. Inside her bag, the encrypted drive held only part of the Crescent Harbor file. Grant did not return. That worried her more than his presence would have. When the meeting ended, Vincent remained seated. The contractor left. Claire gathered the documents. You were distracted, Vincent said. She stopped. I was taking notes. You corrected him twice instead of 4 times. Claire looked at him. You counted, I notice, when you are not yourself. The words tightened something in her chest. This was the moment. She could close the door and tell him everything. But Grant could still be watching the security feed. The office microphones were controlled through a system his department could access. If Claire named Crescent Harbor before securing the evidence, the records might disappear before Vincent reached them. I need to review something, she said. Vincent's eyes narrowed. What I am not sure yet. Claire. She knew that tone. It was not anger. It was an invitation to be honest. She wished she could accept it. I need an hour. Vincent studied her face. Then he nodded once. 1 hour. Claire left the office. At 9:42, she entered the restricted archive on the 44th floor. The room smelled of paper, cold metal, and dust. Rows of locked cabinets ran beneath fluorescent lights. Claire used her keycard at the internal terminal. Access accepted. She searched for Crescent Harbor. A cabinet number appeared. C-17. The drawer was locked with a manual latch. Claire inserted the key from the encrypted drive. The latch resisted, then opened with a sharp click. Inside were original authorization forms, vendor agreements, and payment instructions. She spread them across the table. Vincent's signature appeared on every document. Claire had seen that signature thousands of times. These were excellent copies. Too excellent. The pressure was wrong on the final letter of his last name. Vincent always pressed harder when he crossed the final T. On these pages, the ink remained even. Claire checked the paper. The documents had been printed in Moretti Tower. She found the printer code in the bottom margin. Executive Administration, her department, her access. A sound moved in the corridor. Claire froze. Footsteps stopped outside the archive. The handle turned. The door did not open. A shadow passed beneath it. Claire waited until the footsteps faded. Then she photographed every document, copied the remaining files, and removed 3 original authorization pages from the drawer. She placed them inside her leather bag. It was a violation serious enough to end her career. It might also be the only way to prove the documents had been created inside the building. Claire locked the drawer and returned to the elevator. As the doors opened on the 46th floor, Vincent was standing near her desk. He looked at his watch. "Your hour is almost over." "I know." She crossed toward him. The elevator behind her remained open. Grant was inside. He stepped onto the floor holding a thin gray dossier. 2 security officers followed him. Vincent looked from Grant to Claire. The air changed. Claire felt it before anyone spoke. Grant approached with the careful expression of a man bringing bad news he had already learned how to survive. "We have a problem," he said. Vincent's gaze settled on the dossier. What kind of problem? Grant placed it on Claire's desk. Her name was printed across the cover. Claire Hayes. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then the monitor behind her went black. Her keycard slipped from the system with a sharp electronic click. One of the security officers stepped between Claire and the elevator. Grant looked at the leather bag hanging from her shoulder. His expression remained calm. His eyes did not. Vincent opened the dossier. Claire watched the man she had trusted with every vulnerable part of her life read the first page of a story someone else had written about her. When he finally raised his head, the warmth she had seen beside the window was gone. "Conference room," he said. Claire tightened her grip on the bag and followed him through the glass doors. The conference room door closed behind Claire with a soft click. Rain struck the windows in uneven waves. Far below, traffic moved along the river like a stream of red and white sparks. But inside the room, nothing moved except Vincent's hand as he opened the gray dossier. 7 men sat around the black table. Leo Farina leaned back with his arms folded. Jack Russo stood near the wall, his expression unreadable. Grant Holloway took the seat closest to Vincent's right hand. Claire remained standing. Her leather bag rested against her hip. The encrypted drive inside it felt heavier than it had moments ago. Vincent turned the first page. A photograph showed Claire entering the restricted archive shortly after midnight 2 nights earlier. The image was real. The date was not. He turned another page. Access logs showed her credentials opening Crescent Harbor files. Financial records connected her account to 2 unauthorized approvals. A final report claimed information had been transferred from Moretti Tower to an outside server under her name. The evidence was arranged with precision. It did not look hurried. It looked inevitable. Vincent lifted his eyes. "Tell me you never opened the Crescent Harbor file." Claire looked around the table. 7 men. 7 possible leaks. Grant's face remained calm. Leo watched her with open suspicion. Jack stared at the dossier, not at her. "I opened it," Claire said. The room tightened. Vincent's voice remained low. "Without authorization." "Yes." "You copied protected records." "Yes." "And removed original documents from the archive." Claire kept her hand on the strap of her bag. "Yes?" Leo shifted in his chair. Grant spoke softly. "Vincent, the records are clear." Claire turned toward him. "The records are convenient." Grant met her gaze. "You admit entering the archive. I admit investigating a breach." Vincent's eyes sharpened. "What breach?" Claire looked at the men around him. She thought of the false signatures, the hidden payments, Sophia's private medical address, the footsteps outside the archive door. "I need to speak to you alone." Vincent did not answer immediately. He looked at every man seated at the table. They had built his empire beside him. Some had known his father. Some had buried men for the Moretti family. None would forget being dismissed because Claire Hayes had asked for privacy. His pride entered the silence before his words did. "You will answer here." Claire felt the first real fracture inside her chest. "Vincent, I cannot." "You mean you will not." "I do not know who created these records. I do not know who can hear what I say. I am asking you for 5 minutes." Grant looked down at his hands. Claire saw the scratch beneath his cuff. Vincent closed the dossier. "You had an hour. I used it to protect you. By stealing from me, by finding out who was already stealing from you." Leo pushed forward in his chair. "She should open the bag." Claire looked at him. Leo's anger seemed genuine. That did not make him innocent. Vincent's gaze moved to the leather bag. "What is inside evidence? Against whom I do not know yet." Grant breathed out slowly. "That is convenient, too." Claire ignored him. She looked only at Vincent. For 3 years, she had recognized every shift in his expression. The stillness in his jaw meant he was angry. The slight narrowing of his eyes meant he was calculating. The way his fingers rested against the edge of the dossier meant he was afraid. Not of losing money, not of an enemy entering his territory. He was afraid the accusations were true. Claire understood then that the evidence had been designed for more than his mind. It had been designed for the oldest wound inside him. She lowered her voice. "I have never asked you to ignore facts. No. I have never asked you to protect me from consequences. No. I have never asked you for anything." Vincent's eyes did not leave hers. Claire could feel every man in the room listening. "I am asking you now. Trust me for 5 minutes." Vincent looked at the folder. Then he looked at her. The distance between them was less than 10 feet. It felt larger than Chicago. Grant spoke again. "If she has evidence, she can present it here." Claire's voice sharpened. "And if the traitor is sitting at this table." No one moved. Leo looked toward Grant. Jack raised his head. For the first time, Vincent's certainty flickered. Claire saw it. She almost believed it was enough. Then he stood. "You are suspended from all Moretti properties and systems until this is resolved." Grant's fingers tightened. That was not the outcome he wanted. Claire caught the movement. "Vincent," she said, "look at him." Grant became perfectly still. Vincent looked at Claire instead. "Give Jack the bag." "No." The word landed harder than she intended. Jack stepped away from the wall. "Claire." She turned toward him. Jack's voice was quiet. "If there is evidence in that bag, I can secure it." Claire studied his face. She trusted Jack more than most men in the building, but trust had become a dangerous instinct. "Can you guarantee nobody else has access to your security system?" Jack did not answer. That silence confirmed her fear. Vincent came around the table. His voice dropped. "Give me the bag." Claire held his gaze. "Clear the room. I will not repeat myself. Neither will I." Something passed through Vincent's face. Pain, anger, disbelief that she would challenge him in front of his men. Grant had chosen the room well. He had made obedience part of the accusation. Vincent stopped beside the table. "When you leave this room, you will no longer work for me." Claire's breath caught. No one spoke. She had imagined threats before. She had imagined injury. She had imagined Grant destroying records, bribing men, even ordering her followed. She had not imagined Vincent would be the one to cut her loose. "Is that your decision?" she asked. His eyes remained on hers. "Yes." The word was quieter than the rain. Claire reached into her coat pocket. Every man in the room tensed. She removed her key card. For 3 years, the card had opened Vincent's private elevator, his office, his residence, and rooms where men surrendered their weapons before entering. She placed it on the table. Vincent looked down at it. His fingers moved once. For a second, Claire thought he might push it back. Instead, he said, "Jack will escort you downstairs." A soft laugh escaped her. It held no humor. "For 3 years I walked beside the most dangerous man in Chicago. Now you think I need an escort out of his building? It is not optional." Claire looked at Grant. His face showed concern. His eyes showed relief. She turned back to Vincent. "When you discover why I opened that file, do not come looking for me." She walked out before he could answer. Jack followed her to the elevator. Neither spoke until the doors closed. Claire watched the floor numbers descend. 45. 44. 43. Jack's reflection stood beside hers in the metal doors. "You should have given me the bag," he said. "You should ask who accessed the security network on Thursday night." His eyes shifted toward her. "What happened Thursday night?" "Someone used Vincent's authorization from this building while he was in the air over Lake Michigan." Jack went still. Claire turned to him. "The Crescent Harbor payments match private events, meetings, movements, Sophia's medical appointment." Jack's expression changed. "Who knows? Someone who framed me before I could find out." The elevator reached the lobby. Jack placed one hand against the control panel, keeping the doors closed. "Give me something I can verify." Claire reached into her bag and removed a folded page. It was a copy of the access log from Thursday. She handed it to him. 11:47. Jack read the line. Claire continued. "I was on the plane with Vincent." "I know. The system says I was here." Jack looked at her. For the first time that morning, someone believed the impossibility before the accusation. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I do not know. I can put a car on you." "No. Claire, if this is what you think it is, you are not safe. If Grant has access to your network, your car will lead him directly to me." Jack's jaw tightened. The elevator doors opened. The lobby stretched ahead bright with marble and glass. Employees lowered their eyes as Claire passed. A receptionist looked at Jack, then at the keycard missing from Claire's coat. Rumors were already beginning. At the revolving doors, Jack stopped. "Keep your phone on." Claire looked back at him. "Can you keep Grant out of it?" Jack did not answer. Claire stepped into the rain. Cold water struck her face and darkened her coat within seconds. She crossed Wacker Drive without opening her umbrella. The city felt louder outside the tower. Horns, brakes, the hiss of tires through wet pavement. A train groaned above the street. Claire walked east with her bag pressed close to her side. At the first intersection, she noticed the black Lincoln across the road. It was parked beside a loading zone. The engine was running. Moretti Security used the same model. Claire kept walking. At the next corner, she turned south. The Lincoln pulled away from the curb. She crossed against the light. The car changed lanes. Claire did not look back again. She watched it in windows, in the mirrored doors of an office building, in the dark glass of a closed restaurant. It remained half a block behind her. Her phone vibrated. Vincent. She stared at his name. For 1 weak second she imagined answering. She imagined telling him where she was. She imagined hearing his voice change when he learned someone was following her. Then she saw him closing the dossier. She saw him choosing the folder. Claire rejected the call. She entered a crowded coffee shop on Michigan Avenue. The smell of roasted beans and wet wool filled the room. Office workers stood shoulder to shoulder near the counter. A child cried beside the window. A barista called out names above the noise. Claire moved toward the back. Through the rain-streaked glass, she watched the Lincoln pass. It stopped half a block away. A man stepped from the rear seat. He wore a dark coat and no hat. Claire did not recognize him. That meant little. Grant had known the Moretti organization for 8 years. He knew men outside the family. Men Vincent's security system would not flag. Claire reached into her phone case. A small tracker sat beneath the plastic lining. Jack had installed it after a threat 2 years earlier. If the security network was compromised, the tracker was a beacon. Claire removed it. The rear door of the coffee shop opened into a service corridor. She slipped past a stack of boxes and entered the kitchen. A cook shouted. Claire apologized without stopping. She exited into the alley and dropped the tracker into the back of a delivery truck. The truck pulled away toward the river. Claire moved in the opposite direction. Her phone vibrated again. Vincent. She declined the call. A message appeared. Come back to the tower. Claire almost laughed. Even now it was an order. She continued west. Back on the 46th floor, Vincent stood beside the conference table after everyone else had left. Everyone except Grant. The gray dossier remained open. Claire's keycard lay beside it. Vincent stared at the card. Grant closed his laptop. You made the right decision. Vincent did not look at him. Did I? Grant paused. The evidence left no alternative. Vincent turned one page backward. The access log listed Thursday at 11:47. Something about the time caught at him. Grant moved toward the door. I will coordinate with security. Wait. Grant stopped. Vincent read the line again. Thursday, 11:47. He remembered the plane dropping through turbulence, Claire's coffee spilling across his sleeve, her hand gripping the edge of the table. Both laptops powered off. No network connection, no signal, no possibility that she had accessed Moretti Tower from Chicago. Vincent lifted his head. Who assembled this report? Grant's answer came quickly. My department. Personally, I reviewed it. Vincent looked at the first transaction date. 6 months earlier. Claire's restricted archive access had been granted only 5 days ago. The pattern began long before she had the credentials required to create it. The folder did not prove she was guilty. It proved someone expected Vincent to stop reading after her name appeared. He looked toward the glass wall. Claire's desk sat empty. Her coffee remained beside the keyboard. A yellow note was attached to the edge of her monitor. Call Sophia before 7. Do not pretend you forgot. Vincent picked it up. Even on the morning he accused her of betrayal, Claire had been protecting something in his life. Grant's phone rang. He silenced it. Vincent looked at him. Who called? No one important. Show me. Grant's expression remained calm, but only for a second too long. Vincent stepped closer. Show me the phone. Grant placed it on the table. The recent call had no saved name. Vincent looked at the number. It belonged to a Moretti security relay. Jack entered the room before Vincent could speak. He held the access log Claire had given him. We have a problem. Vincent's eyes moved to the paper. Jack placed it beside the dossier. Her credentials were used from this building at 11:47 Thursday night. I know. She was on the plane with you. I know. Jack looked at Grant. Grant reached for his phone. Vincent covered it with his hand. Where is Claire? Jack glanced toward the windows. She left on foot. Find her. Grant took one step back. Vincent noticed. The room changed. Every memory of the morning rearranged itself. Grant seeing Claire's monitor, Grant carrying the dossier, Grant leaving the building 11 minutes after the security report was filed. Vincent looked at Jack. Where is Grant's car? Jack touched the radio at his collar. A voice answered. Then Jack's face hardened. Gone. Vincent turned. Grant was no longer beside the table. The conference room door stood open. Vincent grabbed his phone and called Claire. Once, twice. No answer. He called again. The line rang while Claire entered Union Station through the entrance on Adams Street. The great hall opened above her, filled with footsteps and voices. Commuters moved beneath the high ceiling. Announcements echoed across the stone walls. Claire found a seat near the center of the crowd. She connected the encrypted drive to her phone. The remaining files opened. Crescent Harbor payments appeared beside confidential events. A private meeting. A protected address. A route change. Sophia's clinic. Claire followed the approval chain. Each transaction had passed through a secondary review account belonging to Grant Holloway. The account had not created the payments. It had erased the original source. Her phone rang again. Vincent. Claire let it stop. A message appeared. The evidence is false. Call me. A second message followed. I was wrong. Tell me where you are. Then a third. Please. Claire stared at the final word. Vincent Moretti did not ask. He decided. He ordered. He expected the world to move. Claire's thumb hovered above his name. A reflection appeared in the black edge of the screen. Grant stood near the entrance to the great hall. His coat was wet. His face was calm. His eyes were fixed on her leather bag. Claire answered the call without looking away from him. Vincent spoke immediately. Claire, where are you, Union Station? Are you alone? Grant began walking toward her. Claire rose slowly. Not anymore. Who is there, Grant? Vincent's breathing changed. Stay where people can see you. Jack is coming. Grant stopped several feet away. Commuters passed between them. You should have gone home, he said. Claire kept the phone at her side. You should have chosen someone less observant to frame. Grant looked around the station. Give me the drive. No. Vincent already showed you what your loyalty is worth. Claire felt the words enter the wound he had helped create. Vincent heard them too. His voice came through the phone. Claire, do not listen to him. Grant noticed the open call. He is listening. Claire raised the phone. To every word. Grant's expression changed. Not fear. Calculation. You think that protects you? No, Claire said. But it protects the truth. Grant moved closer. You do not understand what you found. I understand that you sold private schedules to the Calabrese family. I moved information. You gave them protected addresses. I gave them leverage. You gave them Sophia's medical clinic. For the first time, Grant's control cracked. Vincent was becoming weak. Claire stared at him. Because he trusted someone, because he trusted you. The bitterness in his voice made the final shape of the betrayal clear. It was money. It was ambition. It was jealousy. Grant had watched Claire become the only voice Vincent heard before making decisions. He had watched violence become negotiation. He had watched access shift away from men who believed loyalty was measured in fear. You made him hesitate, Grant said. Men like Vincent do not survive hesitation. Claire held his gaze. No. Men like Vincent die because everyone around them is too afraid to tell them when they are wrong. Grant stepped toward her. A hand closed around his shoulder. Jack Russo stood behind him. 2 security men moved into place. Grant looked at Jack, then at Claire. He smiled once. This does not end here. Jack's grip tightened. It ends wherever Vincent says it ends. Claire looked at Jack. No. It ends where the evidence says it ends. Jack held her gaze for a moment. Then he nodded. Grant twisted free before the second guard could secure him. He disappeared into the moving crowd. Jack did not pursue. Claire understood why when Vincent spoke through the phone. Protect her first. Jack reached for the leather bag. This time, Claire handed him the drive. Vincent's voice softened. Come back to the tower. Claire closed her eyes. 4 hours earlier, she would have followed that voice anywhere. Now she heard only the sentence that had sent her into the rain. No. Claire. Jack has the evidence. You do not need me. That is not true. It was true when you fired me. She ended the call. On the 46th floor, Vincent stood beside her empty desk with the phone still pressed to his ear. The line had already gone silent. The silence after Claire ended the call felt different from every silence Vincent Moretti had ever controlled. It did not belong to him. He stood beside her empty desk with the phone pressed against his ear, listening to a connection that no longer existed. Rain moved against the glass wall behind him. The note Claire had written about Sophia remained between his fingers. Call Sophia before 7. Do not pretend you forgot. The handwriting was steady, familiar, unremarkable. It looked like every note she had left him over the past 3 years. Remember the attorney at 11. Do not threaten the contractor until I confirm the permit. Eat before the meeting. Call your sister. Claire had spent years protecting him from threats that looked nothing like guns. Exhaustion, anger, pride. The careless decisions powerful men made when nobody around them was brave enough to interfere. That morning, she had asked him to trust her for 5 minutes. He had given more consideration to a forged document. Jack's voice came through the phone in Vincent's hand. We have her secured. Vincent lowered the phone from his ear. Where she is still at Union Station. I told you to bring her back. She refused. Vincent looked toward the elevator, then put her in the car. Jack was quiet. Vincent's jaw tightened. That was an order. I know. Why are you still standing there? Because if I force her into a Moretti vehicle after what happened this morning, she will never speak to any of us again. Vincent stared at the rain. Jack had served him for 12 years. He had taken bullets for the family buried evidence and pulled Vincent out of a warehouse while the building burned around them. He rarely questioned an order. Claire's refusal had changed the balance of the room even from miles away. Vincent turned toward the gray dossier. Give me the drive. Claire gave it to me on one condition. What condition? That the original files remain untouched and copies go to an outside attorney. Vincent's eyes narrowed. She does not trust our legal team. She does not know who Grant compromised. The truth sat between them. Neither man challenged it. Vincent looked through the glass wall toward the conference room where he had fired her. Do it. Jack hesitated. Vincent, what I need you to say it clearly. Vincent understood. For years, every decision inside the Moretti organization had passed through loyalty before law. Evidence was protected only when it protected the family. Outside attorneys were used when the family needed distance, never when they needed accountability. Claire wanted the files placed beyond Vincent's control. She was building a wall between truth and the man who had failed her. Vincent closed his eyes for 1 second. Send the copies to an independent attorney. Nobody touches the originals without Claire's written approval. I will handle it. And Jack. Yes. Keep her safe. Jack's voice softened. That is what I am doing. The line ended. Vincent returned to the conference room. The dossier remained open on the table. Grant's chair sat empty. A glass of water stood beside it, half finished. Vincent looked at the chair for a long moment. Then he sat where Claire had been standing. He opened the encrypted files Jack transmitted from Union Station. The first page contained the Crescent Harbor payments. Claire had marked every suspicious amount, every travel discrepancy, every authorization code that appeared when Vincent was outside Illinois. Her notes were precise. No accusations without evidence, no guesses disguised as conclusions. She had written possible explanations beside each irregularity and crossed them out only after disproving them. System error, remote access, delayed processing, administrative duplication. One by one, she had eliminated the harmless answers. Vincent reached the page containing Sophia's medical appointment. Claire had written one sentence beside the date. Only 4 people knew this address. Below it, she listed the names: Claire Hayes, Vincent Moretti, Grant Holloway, Jack Russo. Vincent leaned back. Sophia had gone to the clinic after discovering a lump near her collarbone. It had been benign, but for 3 days Vincent had lived with a fear he could not threaten, bribe, or kill. He had told nobody except the people required to protect her. Grant had sold that location. Not a warehouse. Not a shipment. His sister. Vincent continued reading. The next file contained photographs of the forged authorizations. Claire had enlarged Vincent's signature and marked the final letter of his surname. Pressure pattern inconsistent. She had noticed something his attorneys had missed. The final document was a personal note stored inside the encrypted folder. Vincent opened it. If I am stopped before I can explain this, make certain Vincent knows I never betrayed him. His hand became still on the screen. No anger rose inside him. Anger would have been easier. Anger could be pointed at Grant. It could be turned into orders, weapons-locked doors, and men waiting in dark rooms. What Vincent felt had no direction. Claire had known she might be discovered. She had known someone inside his organization was watching her. She had known the evidence might be used against her. Her final concern had still been that Vincent would believe she had betrayed him. And when she stood in front of him, he had proven that fear correct. The conference room door opened. Leo Farina entered first, followed by 2 senior captains and Vincent's general counsel. They stopped when they saw where he was sitting. Vincent closed the laptop. "Where are the others?" "On the way," Leo said. "Call them. Everyone who was in this room this morning returns now." Leo looked at the empty chair near Vincent's right hand. Grant will not be joining us." No one asked why. 10 minutes later, the same men who had watched Claire place her keycard on the table sat in the same seats. The rain had weakened outside. Gray light filled the room. Vincent stood. He did not sit at the head of the table. He stood where Claire had stood. The evidence against Claire Hayes was false. No one moved. The attorney opened his mouth. Vincent looked at him. The attorney closed it. Claire discovered an internal breach connected to Crescent Harbor Consulting. She removed documents because she believed someone with system access was destroying evidence. She was correct. Leo glanced toward Jack's empty place. Who was responsible? Grant Holloway. A low curse came from the far end of the table. Vincent continued. Grant used Claire's credentials and altered security records. He sold private schedules, protected locations, and internal business information to the Calabrese organization. Leo's face darkened. He gave them Sophia's clinic. Yes. The room changed. Several men looked toward the door as though Grant might walk through it. Vincent placed both hands on the table. Claire tried to warn me. I did not allow her to speak privately. I accepted evidence assembled by one advisor without independent review. The men waited. They expected Vincent to explain why his decision had been reasonable. They expected him to blame security procedures or the urgency of the threat. He gave them none of it. I was wrong. The words entered the room like a shot no one had heard coming. Leo shifted in his chair. Boss Grant built the file to convince you. And it worked. You had no reason to think she was innocent. Vincent looked at him. I had 3 years of reasons. Leo lowered his eyes. Vincent turned toward the attorney. Prepare a formal correction. Claire's name is cleared in every internal report. Every person who received the accusation receives the correction from me. The attorney nodded. What language do you want used? The truth. Vincent looked around the table. Claire Hayes uncovered a threat to this family. I accused her without sufficient proof. The failure was mine. No one spoke. From this moment forward, no employee or family associate is removed solely on the accusation of one advisor. Evidence will be reviewed independently. The accused will be allowed to answer privately when security permits. One of the captains frowned. That gives people room to create stories. It gives us room to avoid destroying the wrong person. The captain looked toward the dossier. Vincent closed it. This meeting is over. The men stood. Leo remained behind. Vincent waited until the door closed. You want permission to find Grant? Vincent said. I do not need many men. No. Leo's jaw tightened. He sold us to the Calabrese family. He sold information. We do not yet know what else he sold or who helped him. We can ask him. You will not touch him. Leo stared at Vincent. If he comes near Claire again, Jack handles it. If you see Grant, you call me. You are protecting him. Vincent stepped closer. I am protecting the evidence Claire nearly died to preserve. Leo held his gaze for a moment, then nodded. When he left, Vincent was alone again. He looked at Claire's key card on the table. He picked it up and placed it in his pocket. At Union Station, Jack moved Claire through a service exit beneath the tracks. 2 security men walked ahead. Another remained behind them. Claire kept her coat closed around her. The station noise faded as they entered a concrete corridor lit by narrow white lamps. Where are we going? She asked. Somewhere not connected to the Moretti family. Claire looked at him. Vincent agreed to that. He did. That quickly, Jack pressed the elevator button. He is beginning to understand that he is not the person you need protection from most. The elevator opened. Claire stepped inside. That is not the same as understanding he is one of them. Jack did not answer. A black sedan waited in an underground loading area. It did not carry Moretti plates. Claire noticed. Jack noticed her noticing. The vehicle belongs to an independent security firm. Who owns the firm? No one Vincent has had dinner with. That eliminates half of Chicago. Closer to a third. Claire almost smiled. The feeling disappeared before it reached her face. She entered the car. As they drove east, she watched the city through dark glass. Chicago had changed in less than a day. That morning, every street had been part of Vincent's world. Every intersection had carried a memory of driving beside him, waiting for him, or arranging something on his behalf. Now the buildings looked unfamiliar. She had spent 3 years learning how to move through his life. Without it, she did not know where she belonged. Jack took her to a small hotel near Millennium Park. The lobby was warm and quiet. A fire burned behind glass near the reception desk. A few travelers sat beneath low lamps speaking in soft voices. Nobody looked at Claire twice. The anonymity felt strange. Jack handed her a room key. The reservation is under another name. Does Vincent know the name? No. The room number? No. Does he know the hotel? Jack paused. He knows you are secure. That was not my question. No, Jack said. He does not know the hotel. Claire studied him. Thank you. Jack glanced toward the elevators. There will be 2 people in the lobby and 1 on the service floor. They do not work for Vincent. Who pays them? The attorney holding the evidence. Claire nodded. Jack held out his hand. Your phone. She gave it to him. He removed the battery, checked the case, and replaced the device with a new phone still sealed in its box. Only 3 numbers are programmed. Mine, the attorneys, and emergency services. Vincent, no. Claire looked at the screen. She should have felt relieved. Instead, the absence of his name opened a hollow place beneath her ribs. Jack seemed to understand. He asked me to add it. And you refused. I told him it was your decision. Claire looked away. Good. Jack left her outside the room. Claire entered and locked the door behind her. The hotel room was small but elegant. Cream walls, a narrow desk, a chair beside the window. The lake was hidden behind the buildings, but she could see Michigan Avenue below. People moved beneath umbrellas. Cars stopped at traffic lights. The world continued with a cruelty only ordinary life could manage. Claire removed her wet coat and placed it across the chair. She opened the leather bag. The original authorization pages were gone. Jack had secured them with the drive. All that remained was her wallet, a notebook, a small cosmetic case, and the pen Vincent had given her on her first anniversary at Moretti Tower. It was black lacquer with silver initials. C.H. Claire took it out. She remembered Vincent placing the narrow box on her desk. You remembered, she had said. I remember everything. You forgot Sophia's birthday twice. That is different. How you remind me. Claire closed her hand around the pen. That had been the shape of their relationship. Vincent remembered the things Claire placed in front of him. She had mistaken dependence for intimacy. The new phone rang. Jack's number appeared. Claire answered. Grant accessed an emergency security account before we locked him out. She stood. What did he access? Vehicle records, safe locations, hotel partnerships. This hotel I do not know yet. Claire looked toward the door. Jack continued. I am coming back. Do not open the door for anyone. How long? 10 minutes. The call ended. Claire crossed to the window and pulled the curtain aside. A dark sedan stopped across the street. A man stepped out. Not Grant. One of the men from the coffee shop. Claire let the curtain fall. She called the attorney's number and explained the situation. Then, she activated the recording function on the phone. The elevator bell sounded in the hallway. Footsteps moved across the carpet. They stopped outside her room. 3 quiet knocks. Claire did not move. Claire. Grant's voice came through the door. Calm, patient, almost gentle. We need to finish our conversation. Claire placed the phone on the desk with the microphone facing the door. You should leave. I cannot do that. Jack is coming. Jack is loyal to Vincent. That has limits. You learned that this morning. Grant was silent for a moment. Then he laughed softly. You are angry with the wrong man. Claire moved closer to the door but remained several feet away. You created the evidence. Vincent chose to believe it. You used my credentials. He chose to believe them. You sold his private information. He built a life where information is more valuable than people. Claire looked at the phone. The recording timer moved steadily. What do you want? The drive. Vincent has it. I know. Then why are you here? The silence outside lasted too long. Claire understood. You do not know whether I made another copy. Grant's voice lost some of its warmth. Did you? Claire did not answer. Who else has the files? You gave the Calabrese family protected addresses. I gave them leverage. You gave them Sophia's medical clinic. Grant struck the door once with the flat of his hand. The sound shook the frame. You do not understand the structure you entered. I understand that you sold a frightened woman's location to men who wanted control over her brother. Vincent was becoming careless. Because he trusted me. Because he listened to you. Claire kept her voice steady. You hated that. I spent 8 years building his organization. I advised his father. I negotiated with men who would have killed Vincent before he was old enough to understand the room. Then you arrived with a calendar and a cup of coffee, and suddenly every decision passed through you. I was his secretary. You were the only person he heard. The bitterness in Grant's voice filled the hallway. Claire looked at the recording timer. You thought removing me would restore your influence. I thought removing you would restore his instincts. His instincts told him to fire an innocent woman. His instincts kept him alive. No, fear kept him alive. You made sure he never learned the difference. A sound came from the stairwell. Grant heard it. The handle moved. The door held. Open the door, Claire. No, I am trying to leave you a choice. You framed me, followed me through Chicago, and came to my hotel room. You stopped offering choices hours ago. Footsteps approached from both ends of the corridor. Grant stepped away from the door. Claire heard Jack's voice. Hands where I can see them. A sharp impact followed. Someone struck the wall. Another man shouted. Claire remained inside until Jack called her name. She checked through the peephole. Grant was on his knees with one arm forced behind his back. Jack stood over him. 2 independent security officers restrained the man from the sedan. Claire opened the door. Grant looked up at her. The calm mask was gone. You think Vincent will change because he feels guilty? Claire picked up the phone from the desk. I think this recording will make sure you no longer get to decide. Grant's eyes moved to the screen. Jack pulled him to his feet. Take him downstairs. Grant struggled once. Jack tightened his grip. You should be grateful she wanted evidence, Jack said. Other people in this city would have wanted blood. Grant looked toward Claire as the men moved him down the hall. You do not belong in his world. Claire stood in the doorway. That is the first honest thing you have said. The elevator doors closed. Jack entered the room. Are you hurt? No. He never got inside, no. Jack looked at the recording on her phone. You kept him talking. He wanted to explain why he was right. Men like Grant usually do. Claire sent the file to the attorney. Then she sent a copy to Jack. What happens now, Grant remains under independent guard until the attorneys determine how to transfer him without compromising the case. And Vincent? Jack looked toward the hallway. Claire understood before he answered. The elevator bell rang. Vincent stepped onto the floor. He was alone. His tie was gone. His white shirt was open at the collar. Rain darkened the shoulders of his coat. He stopped when he saw Claire. 15 feet separated them. Jack looked at her. I told him not to come. Claire kept her eyes on Vincent. So did I. Vincent did not approach. Jack moved toward the elevator. I will be downstairs. When he was gone, the hallway became still. Claire folded her arms. Jack promised you would not come unless I asked. He did. I did not ask. I know. Then why are you here? Vincent looked at the door behind her, then at the faint mark Grant's hand had left against the wood. When Jack said Grant found you, I stopped thinking. Claire's voice was quiet. That seems to be a dangerous habit today. Yes. The answer came without resistance. Claire had prepared herself for explanations. Grant manipulated the evidence. The organization was under threat. Vincent had to make a decision in front of his men. He gave her none of them. Grant is contained, he said. The files are with an independent attorney. Your name has been cleared. Cleared where every report, every department, every person who heard the accusation. Claire held his gaze. Did you tell them you were wrong? Yes. The answer surprised her. Vincent reached into his coat. Claire's body moved backward before she could stop it. Vincent froze. His hand remained inside the coat. Pain crossed his face. Slowly, he removed the key card she had placed on the conference table. He held it between 2 fingers. I came to return this. Claire looked at the card. I do not want it. His hand lowered. Your position is still yours. No. Claire. You fired me. I know. You called security. I know. You looked at me like I was a stranger trying to steal from you. Vincent swallowed. I know. The lack of defense made the anger inside her harder to hold. You were protecting me, he said. Yes. And I punished you for it. Yes. I should have cleared the room. Yes. I should have looked at the dates. Yes. I should have believed you. Claire's voice broke before she could steady it. Yes. Vincent took one step forward. Claire stepped back again. He stopped immediately. For 3 years, she had stood close enough to adjust his tie before meetings. She had taken glasses from his hand when he had drunk too much. She had leaned toward him in crowded rooms to whisper the names of men he needed to remember. Now her body treated him like danger. Vincent looked at the space she had created between them. I would never hurt you. Claire felt something inside her give way. You already did. The words were not loud. They did not need to be. Vincent's face tightened. Claire continued. I am not afraid you will put a gun to my head. I am not afraid you will send one of your men after me. I am afraid that the next time someone places a convincing lie on your desk, you will believe it before you believe me. I will not. You cannot promise that. I can. No. You can promise you regret this. You can promise you hate what you did. You can promise you wish you had chosen differently. But you cannot stand in this hallway and order the future to obey you. Vincent looked down at the keycard. His hand closed around it. Claire stepped into the hallway and pulled the door partly closed behind her. You asked me once what you would do without me. Vincent raised his eyes. I thought the answer was that you would miss meetings or drink bad coffee. Her throat tightened. I did not know the real answer was that you would believe the worst thing anyone said about me. That is not what happened. It is exactly what happened. The evidence looked real. So did 3 years. Vincent had faced armed men without blinking. Now he looked as though each word had found a place no weapon had reached. Claire pressed her hand against the door. You did not lose my loyalty today, Vincent. He watched her. You lost my trust. The hallway held the sentence between them. Vincent did not step forward. He did not call her name. He did not tell her to open the door. Claire closed it. For several seconds she remained with her forehead against the wood. No sound came from the other side. Then she heard his footsteps move toward the elevator. Slow, measured, leaving because she had asked him to leave. Claire looked down at the new phone in her hand. A message from the independent attorney confirmed that the evidence had been secured and that Grant's recorded admission was being preserved. Another message arrived from Jack. Vincent has left the building. Claire sat on the edge of the bed. The room was quiet again. On the other side of Chicago, Vincent entered Moretti Tower through the private garage. He passed armed men who lowered their eyes. He rode the elevator alone to the 46th floor. Claire's desk remained empty. Her coffee from that morning was still beside the keyboard. Vincent picked it up. The liquid was cold. He carried the cup into his office and placed it beside his own. Then he sat behind the desk, removed her keycard from his hand, and set it in the center of the dark wood. For the first time since inheriting the Moretti name, Vincent had no order that could repair what had been broken. Vincent remained behind his desk until the lights along the Chicago River began to disappear. One by one, offices across the city went dark. Traffic thinned along Wacker Drive. Rainwater continued sliding down the windows, dividing the skyline into blurred pieces. Claire's keycard lay in the center of his desk. He had spent his entire life surrounded by objects that represented control: keys, contracts, weapons, names written in ledgers, photographs of men who owed him money. Claire's card had once meant access. She could enter his office, his private elevator, his residence, and every guarded room in Moretti Tower without waiting for permission. Now the card meant nothing. The woman it belonged to had closed a door he could not open. Vincent reached for his phone. Claire's number remained on the screen from his last attempt to call her. His thumb hovered over it. He remembered her stepping backward when he reached into his coat. He placed the phone face down. A knock sounded at the office door. Jack entered carrying a folder. "Grant has been transferred," he said. "To whom?" The independent attorney arranged federal custody through a contact outside our usual network. Vincent looked up. "You gave him to federal agents. I gave them a man who admitted selling protected information and compromising private addresses. Grant knows enough to damage this family. He already damaged it." Vincent's eyes hardened. Jack did not lower his gaze. "What did he say?" Vincent asked. "Nothing useful. He requested an attorney." "Which attorney?" "One we have never used." Vincent leaned back. Grant had spent 8 years learning how the Moretti family contained problems. He knew which judges could be reached, which prosecutors could be delayed, and which attorneys were loyal to the family before they were loyal to the law. By choosing someone outside that circle, Grant was protecting himself from Vincent. It was an intelligent decision. Vincent had once valued that intelligence. "Keep watching the transfer," he said. "I want to know who contacts him." Jack nodded. He placed the folder on the desk. "What is this?" "The formal correction clearing Claire's name." Vincent opened it. The language was clean and careful. An internal review determined that allegations concerning unauthorized access and disclosure of confidential information by Claire Hayes were unsupported by verified evidence. Vincent read the sentence twice. "Unsupported. That is the language legal approved. It sounds like we failed to prove she was guilty." Jack said nothing. Vincent pushed the folder back. "Rewrite it. How the allegations were false. Claire discovered the breach. Grant fabricated evidence using her credentials. I dismissed her before allowing an independent review." Jack watched him. "Legal will object to that wording. Legal was in the room when I fired her. They will say you are accepting personal liability." "I am." Jack pulled out the chair across from the desk. "That could affect the legitimate companies. Claire could sue. The board could use it against you. The city contractors could claim leadership instability." Vincent looked at the empty coffee cup beside Claire's. "Then they will be telling the truth." Jack sat quietly. Vincent picked up the black pen Claire had once left near his calendar. "Send the correction to every department and every person who attended the meeting. Your name at the bottom. My signature." Jack nodded. Vincent signed the first page. His last name ended with the heavy final stroke Claire had noticed was missing from the forged documents. Jack looked at the signature. "She knew exactly how you wrote your name. She knew everything." Vincent closed the folder. Jack remained seated. "What? You have not asked where she is." Vincent's expression changed. "I know you will not tell me." "No. Is she safe?" "Yes." "Has she slept?" "I do not know." "Has she eaten?" Jack almost smiled, but stopped when he saw Vincent was serious. "She is not your responsibility anymore." The words struck harder than Jack intended. Vincent turned toward the windows. "No," he said. "She made that clear." Jack stood. At the door, he paused. "Respecting what she asked for is the only useful thing you can do tonight." Vincent looked at the phone face down on his desk. "I know." Jack left. Vincent remained alone until dawn. He read every Crescent Harbor document Claire had collected. He reviewed the security logs, Grant's access history, and every meeting connected to the leaked information. But he kept returning to her private note. "Make certain Vincent knows I never betrayed him." She had been afraid of losing his trust before she had been afraid of losing her job. He had made sure she lost both. At 8 the next morning, Claire woke in the hotel room with the lamp still burning beside the bed. For several seconds, she did not know where she was. Then she saw the sealed phone on the nightstand and remembered the hallway. Grant's voice outside the door, Vincent holding her keycard, the look on his face when she stepped away from him. Claire sat up slowly. Her clothes from the previous day were folded over the chair. A hotel robe lay beside them. Her leather bag rested on the desk. The bag looked strangely empty without the encrypted drive. For weeks, she had carried Vincent's schedule, legal documents, meeting notes, medication, spare cufflinks, 2 phones, and the small emergencies that followed him through every day. Now the bag held only her own belongings. A knock sounded. Claire became still. "Room service," a woman called. Claire checked the new phone. A message from Jack had arrived 5 minutes earlier. "Breakfast is outside. The employee has been verified." Claire opened the door. A cart waited in the hallway with coffee, eggs, toast, and a sealed envelope. Her name was written across the front. Claire recognized Vincent's handwriting. She brought the cart inside and locked the door. The envelope contained her old key card, the formal correction, and copies of the reports sent throughout Moretti Tower. Vincent's statement was on top. Claire Hayes uncovered a coordinated effort to compromise protected information belonging to Moretti businesses and members of my family. The allegations made against her were fabricated. I removed her from her position without allowing a complete and independent review. Claire acted with loyalty and courage. The failure was mine. Claire read the final sentence again. Vincent did not share blame easily. He did not share it at all. The correction did not ask her to forgive him. It did not describe the pressure he had been under or the quality of Grant's evidence. It simply named what he had done. Beneath the statement was a smaller sheet of paper. One handwritten line crossed the center. "I should have believed you when belief still meant something." Claire sat beside the window. The city below was bright after the storm. Sunlight reflected from wet rooftops. People crossed Michigan Avenue carrying coffee and shopping bags, unaware that the shape of her life had changed in a single day. She held the key card between her fingers. For years, she had felt a quiet sense of importance each time the private elevator recognized it. The card meant Vincent trusted her enough to enter spaces nobody else could reach. She understood now that access was not trust. Access could be canceled by a man at a computer. Trust had to survive when the door refused to open. Claire returned the card to the envelope. She ate 2 bites of toast and left the coffee untouched. At 10, the independent attorney called. Her name was Rebecca Sloan. Rebecca explained that the original documents and recordings had been preserved. Grant was in federal custody, and several outside accounts connected to Crescent Harbor had been frozen. "The Moretti organization has agreed not to interfere," Rebecca said. Vincent agreed. He signed the authorization himself. Claire looked at the envelope. "Will Grant be charged?" "The evidence supports charges involving financial fraud, unauthorized system access, extortion, and conspiracy. The final decision belongs to prosecutors." "What about the Calabrese family?" "The files establish contact, but not every participant has been identified." Claire closed her eyes. The danger was not finished, but it had changed shape. It belonged to investigators now. Lawyers. Agents. It belonged to investigators now. Lawyers. Agents. People who worked without carrying the Moretti name. Rebecca continued. "You should consider independent counsel for yourself." "Am I in legal danger?" "You removed protected documents from a private archive. To preserve evidence." "I understand." Vincent Moretti's written statement supports that explanation. Claire looked again at his signature. He did not have to include that. No, Rebecca said. He did not. When the call ended, Claire took a shower and dressed in clothes purchased by the hotel concierge. The blouse fit badly at the shoulders. The shoes were half a size too large. For 3 years, Claire had kept a spare suit in a closet beside Vincent's office. She had prepared for overnight negotiations, emergency flights, and sudden trips across state lines. She had never prepared for the possibility that she would be unable to return for her own clothes. At noon, Jack arrived with 3 boxes. He waited in the hallway until Claire opened the door. "These are from your desk," he said. She looked at the boxes. "My desk was cleared already. Vincent ordered that nobody touch it until I arrived." Claire stepped aside. Jack placed the boxes near the wall. Inside were books, framed photographs, notebooks, a spare pair of shoes, and the ceramic mug Sophia had given her the previous Christmas. One box contained the dark blue jacket Claire had worn during her first week at Moretti Tower. Jack noticed it. "You kept that?" "It was expensive. It has a coffee stain on the sleeve. Vincent walked into me. He said you walked into him. Vincent is often wrong." Jack's expression softened. "So I have recently learned." Claire sat on the edge of the bed. "How is he?" Jack looked toward the window. "You do not have to ask. I know. He has not slept. That is not unusual. He cleared your name in front of every captain. He changed the review procedures. He transferred the files without resistance." Claire looked at the sealed envelope. Those were the right things to do. Yes, they do not make the wrong thing disappear. No. Jack placed his hands in his coat pockets. "He knows that." Claire looked at him. "Does he?" "I think he is beginning to." Her phone rang. A number she knew by memory appeared on the screen. Vincent. Jack saw the name. "I can tell him not to call again." Claire let the phone continue ringing. Then she answered. "Hello?" Silence filled the line. Vincent had not expected her to answer. "Claire." His voice was lower than usual. "Jack is here." "I know." Claire glanced at Jack. He shook his head, denying responsibility. Vincent continued. "I wanted to confirm that you received the correction. I did. If anything is inaccurate, I will change it. It is accurate." Another silence. Vincent was rarely uncertain in conversation. He controlled meetings by deciding when others could speak and when the silence became uncomfortable enough to force honesty. Now he seemed afraid of choosing the wrong sentence. "Your position is still yours," he said. Claire looked down. There it was. The solution Vincent understood. Return the job, restore the access, put the broken pieces back where they had been. "I do not want it. You do not have to decide today. I already decided. I can double your salary." Claire closed her eyes. "This is not about money. You can choose your staff. You can oversee every administrative department. You will report only to me. You are negotiating. I am trying to repair what I broke. No. You are making the offer larger because you believe every refusal has a price. That is not what I believe. It is what you are doing." Vincent became quiet. Claire stood and walked to the window. Below, a couple waited at a traffic light. The man held an umbrella over both of them, leaving half his own shoulder exposed to the rain dripping from a building awning. A small, ordinary act. No command. No obligation. Claire pressed the phone closer to her ear. "For 3 years, my life followed your calendar. I know. No, you do not. I woke before dawn because you refused to sleep. I canceled vacations because your meetings changed. I remembered your sister's birthday, your attorney's schedule, the medication you forgot to take, and the name of every man you might insult if you were tired. I never asked you to do all of that." The words came out too quickly. Claire went still. Vincent heard it. I should not have said that. But you did. I meant that I did not understand what it cost you. That is the problem. You did not have to ask because you knew I would do it. Vincent said nothing. Claire looked at her reflection in the hotel window. She barely recognized the woman standing there in borrowed clothes. I became essential to your life, Vincent. I thought that meant I mattered inside it. You did. Then, why did one folder erase 3 years? His answer came quietly. It did not. It erased enough. Vincent breathed in. The evidence frightened me, because it threatened the organization. No. Claire waited. Because it was you, he said. The honesty hurt more than an excuse. I trusted you more than anyone. When Grant placed that evidence in front of me, I saw every betrayal my father warned me about. I reacted before I thought. And you punished me before you asked why. Yes. Claire closed her eyes. Vincent did not soften the answer. He did not move away from it. I cannot work for you again, she said. I understand. I need distance. I understand. I need time that does not belong to your schedule. The silence lasted several seconds. All right. Vincent had never spoken those words so gently. Claire tightened her grip on the phone. Thank you for clearing my name. It should never have been damaged. No. Claire. Yes. Thank you for protecting me when I did not deserve it. Her throat tightened. Do not make me regret it. I will not. The call ended. Jack remained near the door. Claire placed the phone on the desk. He offered you the job, Jack said. And more money. That sounds like him. He thinks an apology is a negotiation. He has spent his entire life negotiating with people who want something. Claire looked at the boxes from her desk. I wanted him to believe me. Jack nodded. That was not something he knew how to buy. 3 days later, Claire left the hotel. Rebecca arranged a temporary apartment in the West Loop. It had large windows, pale walls, and almost no furniture. On the first night, Claire slept on a mattress placed directly on the floor. There were no security men in the hallway, no emergency phone beside the bed, no schedule waiting for her at dawn. She woke at 5:30 out of habit. For several minutes she stared at the ceiling, expecting Vincent's name to appear on her phone with a question that could have waited until morning. Nothing appeared. Claire made coffee for herself, 1 cream, 1 sugar. She sat beside the window while the city brightened. The silence felt empty. Then it began to feel like freedom. Over the following week, Claire updated her resume. She had served as Vincent Moretti's executive secretary for 3 years, but the title did not describe what she had actually done. She had managed crisis communications, coordinated private security, evaluated operational risks, resolved disputes between senior executives, reviewed contracts, and prevented armed men from turning minor disagreements into public violence. Most of those details could not be written openly. She converted them into language legitimate companies would understand. Strategic planning, executive operations, risk management, conflict resolution, confidential logistics. She submitted applications to 5 companies. 3 responded within 2 days. 1 withdrew after learning she had worked for Moretti Holdings. Another interviewer spent 20 minutes asking questions about Vincent instead of Claire's qualifications. The 3rd company was Westbrook Strategic Operations. Its office occupied 6 floors of a renovated warehouse near Fulton Market. Exposed bricks surrounded glass meeting rooms. Employees moved through the building carrying laptops and paper cups. Nobody lowered their voice when the owner entered. Nobody carried a weapon beneath a suit jacket. Claire noticed both things immediately. The owner, Daniel Westbrook, was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s with reading glasses and a habit of tapping his pen against the table. He reviewed Claire's resume. "You were an executive secretary." "Yes." "You applied for director of operations." "Yes." He looked at her over his glasses. "Those are not usually the same position. They were where I worked." Daniel leaned back. "Explain." Claire looked toward a whiteboard covered with shipping routes and expansion estimates. She recognized a problem in less than a minute. "Your projected Denver expansion assumes the same insurance exposure as Chicago." Daniel stopped tapping the pen. "It is a preliminary model. Your Denver warehouse is in a flood zone. The estimate also assumes one regional carrier, but the delivery routes cross 3 states with different fuel tax reporting requirements." Two executives at the end of the table looked toward the whiteboard. Claire continued, "Your timeline gives 6 weeks for local licensing. The county average is closer to 10. If the permits are delayed, your lease begins before you can operate." Daniel closed her resume. "How did you see that?" "The numbers did not agree with the schedule. You reviewed the model before coming. I saw it when I entered the room." One of the executives turned the whiteboard toward himself. Daniel studied Claire. "What did you actually do for Vincent Moretti?" Claire folded her hands on the table. "I made sure his organization survived the decisions people made before checking the details." Daniel's mouth moved slightly. It might have been a smile. 20 minutes later, he gave her a more complete expansion plan. Claire found 4 additional weaknesses. 2 days later, Westbrook offered her the position. Director of Operations, a private office, a salary lower than Vincent's offer but higher than her previous pay. Most importantly, the position belonged to her. Claire accepted. On her first Monday, she arrived at 8:30, not 6:50. She carried 1 coffee. The receptionist smiled and handed her a temporary access card. "It opens the main floors and your office." Claire looked at the card. "Anything else?" "You need separate approval for the server room." The ordinary limitation comforted her. Her office overlooked the elevated train tracks. A small metal plaque beside the door displayed her name. Claire Hayes, Director of Operations. She touched the edge of the plaque before entering. Her desk was empty. No one else's calendar waited on the screen. No private phone rang with an emergency she was expected to solve. Claire placed her coffee beside the keyboard and sat down. For the first time in 3 years, the chair beneath her belonged completely to her. At 10, she led her first operations meeting. Nobody referred to Vincent. Nobody asked what he would do. They asked what Claire thought. The difference settled quietly inside her. At noon, she stepped into the lobby to meet a vendor. The elevator doors opened. Vincent stood on the other side. He was alone. No Jack. No security detail, no assistant carrying documents. He wore a dark suit without an overcoat, and for once he looked like a man who had arrived somewhere without controlling the room first. Claire stopped. The receptionist glanced between them. Vincent did not move closer. "How did you find me?" "I asked Jack whether contacting you would create a security risk. That does not answer the question. He contacted Westbrook's security director. They asked whether I could wait in the lobby." Claire looked toward the reception desk. The receptionist pretended to read an email. "That sounds unusually respectful," Claire said. "I am learning." Vincent reached into his pocket. Claire's body tensed. He noticed. Slowly, he removed her old key card. He held it for 1 second, then returned it to his pocket. "I did not come to offer your job back." "Then why are you here?" Vincent looked at the glass meeting room beside the lobby. "I am asking for 5 minutes." Claire remembered standing in the conference room. "I am asking you now. Trust me for 5 minutes." Vincent remembered, too. The knowledge passed between them. "Please," he said. Claire checked the time on her phone. "You have 5 minutes." They sat at a small round table near the windows. Vincent placed nothing between them. No contract, no envelope, no gift. Claire folded her hands in her lap. You have 4 minutes and 50 seconds. A faint shadow of amusement touched his face. It disappeared quickly. I spent 3 weeks trying to understand why I believed Grant. The evidence looked real. Evidence can be questioned. You did not question it. No. Vincent looked through the glass wall toward the street. My father had a younger brother named Anthony. Anthony handled family accounts and knew every protected address we used. Claire waited. Vincent rarely spoke about his father. He was arrested when I was 16. The prosecutors offered him a reduced sentence in exchange for information. What did he give them? Everything. Vincent's voice remained controlled. Warehouses, accounts, names. He also gave information to another family because he believed they would protect him after he testified. Did they? They killed him before the trial. Claire looked at Vincent's hands. They were still on the table. My father told me that betrayal never comes from an enemy, he said. Enemies do not have enough access. So you stopped giving people access. I verified everything. I watched everyone. I never allowed one person to become necessary. Until me. His eyes lifted. Until you. The words settled between them. When Grant gave me that folder, I was not thinking like the head of an organization. I was thinking like a man who believed the one person he stopped checking had chosen someone else over him. Claire held his gaze. So, you hurt me before I could hurt you? Yes. You made your fear my punishment. Yes. No excuse followed. Claire looked at the clock on the wall. You have 2 minutes. Vincent nodded. I do not expect you to return to Moretti Tower. I will not. I know. I like this job. I know. You cannot send cars, money gifts, or men to solve problems I did not ask you to solve. Jack has explained that rule several times. Claire almost smiled. Vincent saw the movement and looked down, refusing to claim it as progress. That restraint mattered. 1 minute, Claire said. Vincent's expression became serious. I am not asking you to forgive me today. I am not asking you to work for me. I am not asking you to believe anything I say simply because I came here. Then what are you asking? The chance to earn whatever part of your trust you are willing to let me earn. Claire studied him. The man across from her had once believed every problem could be made smaller through pressure. Now he was asking permission to remain in the room. What does earning it look like to you? She asked. I do not know. The answer surprised her. Vincent continued. I know what it cannot look like. It cannot be an order. It cannot be a contract. It cannot depend on you needing something from me. Claire looked toward her office. Her name was visible on the plaque. I am not coming back. I know. My career does not become temporary because you are sorry. I know. You do not get to decide when I trust you again. I know. The clock moved beyond 5 minutes. Vincent stood. Thank you for listening. He did not ask for another minute. He did not ask when he could see her again. He turned toward the elevator. Claire watched him press the button. The doors opened. Vincent. He looked back. Claire felt the weight of the choice before she spoke. Coffee on Saturday. He remained still. One coffee, she said. A public place. No gifts. No business. Security stays 2 blocks away. 1 block? 2. Claire. Those are the terms. Vincent looked at her for several seconds. Then he nodded. 2 blocks. What time you choose? 9. I will be there. I know. The elevator doors closed between them. Claire remained in the lobby for a moment. Then she returned to her office, carrying the quiet knowledge that this time the terms had been hers. Vincent arrived at the cafe at 8:30 on Saturday morning. Claire had chosen a small place in Lincoln Park with wide front windows, mismatched wooden tables, and no private rooms. Families crowded near the counter. A young couple shared a newspaper by the door. 2 college students argued quietly over a laptop near the back. It was the kind of place where Vincent Moretti could not control who entered, who watched him, or what happened beyond the glass. Claire had selected it for exactly that reason. Vincent chose a table near the center of the room, not the corner, not the chair facing the entrance. He ordered black coffee for himself and nothing for Claire. At 8:58, Claire entered. Vincent stood. She wore a cream coat over dark trousers, her hair loose around her shoulders. She carried no leather bag, no folder, no second phone, nothing that belonged to his world. His eyes moved briefly toward the street. Claire noticed. Where is Jack 2 blocks east? And the other men? One with him. One across the intersection. Claire looked through the window. I said security stays 2 blocks away. The man across the intersection is not security. What is he? A man reading a newspaper? Claire studied the figure outside. He has not turned a page. Vincent sighed. I will call Jack. He reached for his phone. Claire removed her coat. Leave him. Vincent looked up. He is making you uncomfortable. No. I wanted to know whether you would admit he was there. Vincent placed the phone face down on the table. Claire sat across from him. He did not reach for her coat. He did not move her chair. He did not ask why she was 2 minutes early when she had instructed him to arrive on time. A server approached. Claire ordered coffee with 1 cream and 1 sugar. Vincent knew the order. He said nothing. For several minutes they discussed ordinary things. Sophia's birthday dinner had ended with a disagreement over the restaurant bill. Jack had discovered that 3 captains believed text messages were a form of legal documentation. Claire's new office vibrated whenever the elevated train passed. Vincent disliked the painting Daniel Westbrook had placed in the lobby. Claire looked at him. You have been inside the lobby once. That was enough. You stared at the painting for less than 3 seconds. It was 3 difficult seconds. Claire smiled into her coffee. Vincent noticed. He did not smile back too quickly. He did not treat the moment as permission to move closer. That restraint made it easier for her to remain. Their first coffee lasted 40 minutes. When Claire stood, Vincent stood too. Thank you, he said. For coffee, for coming. Claire put on her coat. I have not forgiven you. I know. I still do not trust you. I know. This does not mean there will be another meeting. I know. She looked at him. You say that often now. I spent years believing certainty made me powerful. And now I know how often certainty prevents a man from listening. Claire considered the answer. Then she walked toward the door. Vincent did not follow her. She looked back once from the sidewalk. He remained beside the table, allowing her to leave first. There was a second coffee the following week. Then a third. They stayed in public places. Claire chose the time. Vincent arrived alone, though Jack's men remained within walking distance. He never brought gifts. He never asked when she would return to Moretti Tower. He asked about Westbrook's strategic operations and listened when she answered. At first, Claire expected every conversation to return to him. His guilt, his fear, his desire to repair what he had broken. Instead, Vincent asked why the Denver expansion had been delayed. Claire explained the permit problem. He listened without interrupting. She described a disagreement between the logistics and finance teams. He asked what decision she had made, not what Daniel Westbrook had ordered. Not what Vincent would have done, what Claire had decided. That difference mattered. One evening, nearly 6 weeks after the firing, Claire remained late at Westbrook's office. Rain tapped against the windows. The elevated train passed outside, making the glass tremble. Most employees had gone home. Claire reviewed a security report connected to one of the company's construction clients. The client was a legitimate Moretti business that had recently hired Westbrook to coordinate deliveries across Illinois. A message appeared on her phone. Vincent. She stared at the screen before answering. Hello. His voice was controlled. A protected schedule was accessed last night. Claire sat straighter. What schedule? A delivery route for Moretti Construction. Westbrook manages that account. I know. Who accessed it? The digital record points to your office. The room seemed to lose its warmth. Claire looked toward the glass walls surrounding her. No one stood outside. She heard the conference room again. She saw the gray dossier. Vincent's hand closing over it. Do you think it was me? She asked. No. The answer came before she finished the question. Claire became still. Vincent continued. I am telling you because your name is connected to the account. You deserve to know before anyone begins an investigation. Claire looked down at the report on her screen. Who else knows Jack? Our external security team. Nobody has been accused. Send me the metadata. You are not required to help. Send it. The files arrived less than a minute later. Claire opened them beside Westbrook's access records. The login originated from an administrative account created 7 months earlier, before Claire joined the company. The account belonged to a vendor that had once provided route optimization software to both Westbrook and Moretti Construction. Grant created a bridge between the two systems, Claire said. Vincent was quiet. She enlarged the access history. He left a dormant account inside the vendor platform. It activated when Westbrook connected to the Moretti contract. Can you prove it? Yes. The encryption signature matches the Crescent Harbor transfer records. Claire sent him the relevant files. Vincent reviewed them. You found that quickly. I knew what to look for, because Grant used the same method against you. Yes. The word sat heavily between them. Vincent did not apologize again. He understood that repeating the apology each time the wound appeared could become another demand for Claire to comfort him. Instead, he said, Thank you. Claire leaned back in her chair. You believed me before I found the proof. Yes. Why? Because you said you did not do it. That was not enough last time. It should have been. Claire looked through the window at the rain. Vincent waited. You could have investigated first, she said. I could have. You could have kept my name out of it until you knew. I could have. Why did you call? Because I promised myself I would never again let you discover that someone was questioning your integrity after the decision had already been made. Claire closed the metadata report. Something inside her loosened. Not completely, not safely, but enough. Westbrook's security director needs to know, she said. I will speak to him with you present. Not for me. With you present? Vincent repeated, so you know exactly what I say. Claire looked at his name on the screen. All right. They met the next morning in a Westbrook conference room. Daniel Westbrook sat at the head of the table. Claire sat beside him. Vincent and Jack took the opposite side. Vincent explained the breach without implying that Westbrook or Claire had caused it. He presented the evidence. He accepted that the compromised account originated from a Moretti vendor. When Daniel asked whether Westbrook employees had been monitored without authorization, Vincent answered directly. Yes. By your organization? By Grant Holloway using access he obtained while advising us. Daniel's expression hardened. You understand that this could expose us to legal risk. I do. And you are willing to confirm that in writing? Yes. Vincent placed a signed statement on the table. Claire looked at him. He had prepared it before Daniel asked. The old Vincent would have protected the Moretti name first. The man across from her was protecting the truth before it became convenient to hide it. After the meeting, Daniel walked Vincent and Jack to the elevator. Claire remained behind to collect the documents. Vincent returned to the room alone. You left something, she asked. No. Then why are you here? He looked toward the open door. I wanted to know whether you are all right. Claire gathered the papers into a folder. I am. Did the accusation bring back the conference room? Yes. Vincent absorbed the answer. I am sorry. I know. He nodded. Claire looked at him. You did better this time. The words affected him more than praise usually did. He lowered his eyes briefly. I had a better example. Who you? Claire closed the folder. Do not make me responsible for your character. I am not. Good. You showed me what trust looked like. Deciding whether to practice it is my responsibility. Claire studied his face. There was no charm in the answer, no attempt to turn her pain into something romantic, only accountability. She walked him to the elevator. Before the doors closed, Vincent said, Dinner on Friday. Claire considered it. 7:30. I will make a reservation. No private dining room, I know, and no Moretti restaurant. Vincent looked offended. Some of our restaurants are excellent. Some of your restaurants stop serving other customers when you arrive. That is good service. That is intimidation. The elevator doors began to close. Vincent held them open with one hand. Can it be a restaurant where the owner owes me nothing? Yes. That may require leaving Illinois. Claire smiled. 7:30. He released the doors. Their conversations became easier after that. Not simple, never careless, but easier. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became walks along the lakefront when the weather warmed. Vincent learned not to arrange a car unless Claire asked. Claire learned that he hated jazz, but attended Sophia's charity concert every year without complaint. He learned that Claire had once wanted to study architecture before her father became ill and she needed steady work. She learned that Vincent cooked when he could not sleep, though he refused to let anyone see the results. He brought her a container of pasta one evening. Claire looked at it suspiciously. This is a gift. It is food. You made it. Yes. That makes it more dangerous. Vincent opened the lid. You have been working for 11 hours. You are monitoring when I work now. Somebody should. Claire recognized the sentence. Their eyes met. For the first time, the memory did not hurt. She accepted the container. Thank you. Vincent looked almost relieved. Claire pointed a fork at him. This does not mean you can send dinner every night. I know. Twice a week. His eyebrow lifted. Is that a request? It is a limit. I can work with a limit. At Moretti Tower, the changes extended beyond Claire. Vincent required independent reviews before disciplinary decisions. He stopped allowing captains to present accusations without documentation. He invited disagreement during meetings, though most men needed weeks to believe the invitation was real. When Leo Farina demanded permission to attack a Calabrese warehouse after discovering another leaked route, Vincent refused. They threatened one of our businesses, Leo said. They want us to respond before we know who authorized it. We know who they are. We know the name on the building. Leo stared at him. Your father would not have waited. My father trusted Grant. The room became quiet. Vincent ordered Jack to investigate. 2 days later, they discovered the threat had come from a Calabrese lieutenant stealing from his own family. Vincent sent the evidence to the Calabrese leadership. The lieutenant disappeared. No war followed. When Jack told Claire, she listened without comment. He has changed, Jack said. He is changing. There is a difference. Yes. Claire looked through the window of her office. Change is not a decision someone makes once. It is the same decision made again when the old choice would be easier. Jack considered that. You sound like someone who trusts him. Claire returned to the document on her desk. I trust what he did this time. Jack nodded. It was enough. 3 months after Claire started at Westbrook, the company hosted a formal dinner for regional clients. Claire wore a dark green dress and arrived alone. Vincent met her inside the hotel ballroom. He wore a black suit and a simple tie. No men surrounded him. Jack remained somewhere in the building, invisible enough to respect the evening. Daniel Westbrook approached with 2 executives. "Mr. Moretti," he said. Vincent extended his hand. "Vincent, Claire's guest?" Claire looked at him. The introduction was small. It mattered. For years she had entered rooms as Vincent Moretti's secretary. Now he entered one through her invitation. During dinner, Claire presented Westbrook's expansion strategy to nearly 200 guests. She stood beneath the ballroom lights explaining Root's risks and projected growth. Vincent listened from his table. He did not check his phone. He did not leave when a captain called. He did not signal to Claire when a question from the audience became difficult. She did not need him to. After the presentation, executives surrounded her. Vincent remained several steps away. He watched people praise her decisions, her leadership, and her ability to see weaknesses others had missed. When they were finally alone near the balcony, Claire handed him a glass of water. "You are being unusually quiet. I am trying not to make your success about me." Claire looked at him. "That may be the most romantic thing you have ever said. That is a disturbing assessment of my abilities." She laughed. Vincent smiled. The attraction between them had existed for years, hidden inside late nights, shared coffee, and moments neither had been free to name. Now Claire did not work for him. Her salary did not depend on his approval. Her access could not be revoked by his anger. She stood beside him because she had chosen to attend with him. Vincent reached toward her hand, then stopped. Claire saw the question in the movement. She placed her fingers in his. His hand closed gently around hers. No command, no assumption. A choice answered by another choice. Months later, Vincent invited her to Moretti Tower. Claire selected the day and time. When the private elevator opened on the 46th floor, she expected the old office to pull her backward. The glass walls remained. The river moved below. Vincent's desk stood near the windows, but Claire's workstation was gone. In its place were 2 chairs and a small round table. Vincent waited beside them. "You removed the desk?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because nobody will sit there after you. That is not practical." "No. You have an entire organization to run. I hired 3 assistants." "3. They complain less than you. Then they are not doing enough." Vincent smiled. He reached into his pocket and removed her old keycard. Claire looked at it. "I kept this because I thought returning it would prove I wanted you back," he said. "And now I understand that you do not need access to my building to have a place in my life." He bent the card until the plastic cracked. Then he dropped the pieces into the wastebasket. Claire watched him. The gesture did not erase the conference room. It did not make the accusation disappear. It showed that Vincent no longer expected the past to be restored exactly as it had been. He handed her a cup of coffee. 1 cream, 1 sugar. They sat beside the window. "Do you miss working here?" he asked. Claire looked at the office that had once contained her entire life. "No." Vincent nodded. "Good." The answer settled warmly inside her. The old Vincent would have needed her to miss him. He would have mistaken longing for proof of love. The man beside her wanted her to be happy, even when her happiness had nothing to do with him. They watched the river for a while. Vincent placed his cup on the table. "I loved you before I understood what that meant." Claire turned toward him. He continued. "I thought needing you was the same as loving you. I thought protecting you gave me the right to make decisions for you. It did not. I know. You cannot love someone and treat her voice as less valuable than your fear. I know." Claire watched the city reflected in the glass. "Loving someone is not the dangerous part. No believing love gives you ownership is. Vincent looked at her. Then I love you, and I know the decision is yours. Claire held his gaze. There was no audience, no folder, no men waiting for Vincent's judgment. Only the two of them beside the window where their mornings had once begun. Claire reached for his hand. I love you too. Vincent's fingers tightened around hers. He did not pull her closer. He waited. Claire leaned toward him. Their first kiss was quiet. No storm struck the windows. No gunfire echoed through the city. Nothing collapsed beneath them. The world simply continued while two people chose to meet each other without fear deciding for them. The following spring, Claire attended dinner at the Moretti family estate as Vincent's partner, not his employee. Sophia raised a glass from across the table. To Claire, who finally taught my brother that asking permission does not cause physical injury. Vincent looked at his sister. The night is still young. Claire touched his arm. Sophia smiled. Jack stood near the dining room entrance, pretending not to listen. Vincent did not sit at the head of the table. He sat beside Claire. Later, they stepped onto the terrace overlooking Chicago. The city glowed beneath them. Towers rose against the dark sky. Traffic moved like narrow rivers of light. A year earlier, Claire had believed her place beside Vincent depended on how useful she could make herself. Now she had a career that belonged to her, an office with her own name, and a life Vincent entered only when she opened the door. He stood beside her without asking her to become smaller. Vincent had spent his life making men afraid to lose his favor. Claire was the woman who taught him what it meant to fear losing someone he could not command. He learned that loyalty obtained through fear was only obedience, that an apology could open a door but could not decide who walked through it, that love was not proven by making someone stay. It was proven by giving her the freedom to leave, then becoming a man she could choose to return to. Vincent turned toward Claire. Coffee tomorrow morning. She looked at him. 1 cup. 2. Those are not the terms. He smiled. 1 cup. Claire placed her hand in his. Below them, Chicago continued moving. This time, neither of them needed to control where it carried them.